PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, the Star Wars podcast, featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to PLD Projects. Welcome back to Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast. I am your host, PLD, and with me, as always, the Harry co-pilot himself, Matty Gunner. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. You're looking a little shorter than usual. Aren't you a little short to be a podcaster?
You know what's funny? I actually adjusted I have dual monitors. They kind of I set up like this, and they kind of curve in a little bit to fit my desk properly. I decided to try something new and move it over to the other monitor, but I might not have made it short enough. You're actually right. Let me have to do a little bit.
It's funny because in real life, you're actually taller than me.
That's funny. I want to give you a little heads up. I want to give you a little. Not that you need it because you'd still beat the hell out of me. I'll tell you that much. We'll deal with this crap.
Yeah, but like you're still taller than, albeit not by much, but you're still taller than.
There you go. Well, there you go. There's a little. I'll readjust on the fly. That's how we do things live here on PLD Projects.
Fuck it, we do it live.
We're doing it live. Absolutely. This is your first time here. You love this content already, and how could you not? Hit that like, hit that subscribe. You can join us on Patreon. We have a great crew there. Austin Caddell, Jeremy Morris, Jeff Alterman, Brendan Buckingham, great people. Whole crew out there. Please join us there. We have great stuff going on. A little bit short, I'm not going to admit. I'll apologize to the patrons this month, and much as far as like hangouts and things go. I mentioned before on the channel, it's definitely been a difficult month scheduling wise for me and everything else, getting things through. But the wife is doing A-okay so far. We are working our way through things here and there. First surgery down, smooth as L, and we are moving on to the next one soon. Next month, hopefully, we'll be back on in terms of extra content, things of that nature. But that's neither here nor there. That's next week. That's time ahead. Let's talk about
recovery to miss the news, though. As someone who has gone through similar surgery, it's not fun. It's not fun. So.
Definitely is not. I appreciate all the well wishes. I'm passing them on as I get them. But yeah, so this week on Holy Snokes, like we do every week, we'll run through a little bit of news, and then we'll get into our main topic. The main topics come easy these weeks because we have an ongoing active show going on. My favorite time of the Star Wars podcasting. We don't have to plan anything out as far as what's our main topic going to be. Well, we know it's going to be the Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 5. Aired yesterday. Well, actually aired today, this morning. And it was a good one. I can't wait to get into it. It's funny, I will say it's deceptively good in terms of I was able to watch it twice. And the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, oh, good episode, had some good moments. And I figured out afterwards, if you watch this on a surface level, you kind of like, oh, okay, good. It's good. But then like I watched the second time and I just caught more things. And I'm like, this was a really deep, powerful, just well-crafted, well-done episode. And I gotta tip my hat to Jennifer Corbett and Brad Rao and all the way up to whatever influence Dave Filoni has left.
We don't give him credit for the good. We only blame him for the bad. That's how this goes.
Well, I'm gonna give credit to everybody because that's how I roll. Both good and bad for that matter. But it's been all good so far this season. I mean, here we are 5 episodes in. 4 out of the 5 have been absolute bangers, and like even the one that was not quite a banger was still a hell of a fun episode. So they're definitely doing well on the track record as far as I'm concerned. What do you have in your initial thoughts on it before we get into the news?
I thought this was really good. This is exactly the kind of episode that I like. I know I have a reputation for loving the big action, boom, boom, pew, pew, punch, punch, kick stuff. Yeah, I do like that. But then when it gets to the like political intrigue and the development of the characters and the emotional stakes and the emotional meanings, then that's where I'm like, okay, now we're talking. Now we're speaking my language. And this one came full circle on a lot of things. Not just the location, but on a lot of relationships and a lot of feelings that we're going through. And yeah, this was really good. You're more involved in the YouTuber reactor space. I'm sure there's so many people that are calling this a filler episode or an adventure of the week episode just because it has a different creature that we've never seen before in it. That seems to be the thing, isn't it? That every time there's a new kind of creature, it's a monster of the week episode. Isn't that how these things go?
Generally, I mean, actually, my finger is not on the pulse as much. Like I said before, I've been too busy with other things as well. But I know I I understand. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, to be completely honest, and like I try to give the good as credit. I give the less than good. It's like, it's fair shots as well. I mean, it is a case where the big monsters do tend to blend together sometimes. Like Wrecker's saying, "Why is always got to be another big monster?" I mean, it's definitely a little.
That was a shot. That was a shot.
Self-aware shot, right? And I like that. I like the self-aware shot. To be honest,
they timed this episode coming out very well.
Yes,
because of Dune. Actually, no context for the week was pulled from the first Dune movie, running away from Shia LaBeouf.
I thought the same exact thing. I'm like, well, do they do this purposefully? Do they schedule around Dune 2's opening?
I mean, it was a snow worm. It wasn't a sandworm. It was a snow worm. So it had to have been. I'm just waiting for the snow worm popcorn bucket.
Well, I'm all in on that. I gotta be honest.
We gotta talk Dune 2, by the way. We gotta talk Dune. Not this week.
Right. You have to get
once this is done.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say it makes sense that Star Wars did that, though. I mean, I'm joking when I say they timed it, but it makes sense, honestly, because Star Wars does owe a lot to Dune. There's a lot that Star Wars
everything to do.
Oh, that's a big part of it. I'm saying it's basically a big mashup. You got Dune, you got Kurosawa,
Dune, Hidden Fortress,
right? Flash Gordon. It's definitely all in a blender kind of thing, but definitively Dune is definitely one of those ones that's not mentioned as much as the others, but I mean, absolutely. If you don't know Dune very well, then it definitely, you can find that it definitely cribs a lot from that. That is our pitch. We want to talk about at some point. You should go see Dune 2 in the theaters.
Absolute
masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece. And for those who are, needing, I need adult Star Wars. It's really Dune is really kind of like
Dune is adult Star Wars.
That's much what you need. So go for it. I personally of mindset, I love my Star Wars where it is as far as that goes. We get a little bit of adult, a little bit of kids, a little bit of pew-pew, a little bit of in-depth. Hey, I like that we have it all, but I understand the need for more. So if you need more, see Dune 2. Denis Villeneuve is a masterclass director. My favorite current living director at this point.
He might be the GOAT.
I think so. Honestly, to me, he's overtaken Nolan for me.
I think, and this is a side tangent, but I truly believe he's the GOAT. And to see, how much I love Hideo Kojima.
Mm-hmm.
For Kojima to come out and say he's the greatest of all time, I was like, that's all I needed to hear.
For me, Spielberg is still the GOAT. I think Denis needs to do a little bit more as far as just lasting longer at this point.
If he pulls off Messiah like he's done 1 and 2.
Then I mean, he's definitely in the conversation. If anything else, it's gonna be hard. It'd be hard for me. There's definitely some nostalgia there as well for me to overtake Spielberg in general. But I think I will currently say I think Denis now is more vibrant than Spielberg is now, and that's not even a shot at Spielberg. Spielberg has done everything he needs to do to ever be considered the GOAT. But Denis is just a little bit more vibrant, a little more hungry at this point. I feel like that's a different conversation, of course. That we
before we get into the news, I'm just gonna ask you this one last thing. Do you think George is sitting there just like, you motherfucker?
I think George is not. I think George is, at this point, honestly is happy.
You don't think George would have wanted to be green?
Maybe, but I think he's happy seeing it on screen. I think he looks at it and goes, Denis. I mean, I don't want to speak for George, but my gut says that George is happy to see it done very well, and nothing else. And Denis does think.
Does George even watch movies anymore?
I don't know. I gotta feel like he does. I think he wants to. I don't know if he. Who knows? But I think this is, if he's gonna watch a movie, this would have been the one at this point. It's right up his alley. So.
And this would be the last thing I say on Dune 2. I was very nervous when Nolan said it's this generation's Empire Strikes Back. I'm gonna save the reasoning for when we talk about the movie.
Okay.
I think it might be better.
Ooh, whoa! I will not go that far. That's my own.
I'm still.
Hey, I get it.
Debating it. So far, Empire is clinging on solely on nostalgia. That's the only thing that's putting it above right now.
That's fair. Hey, it's an opinion we're all allowed to have, and for absolutely sure. But
even if they're wrong, right?
Even if they're wrong.
All right, your news hound.
All right,
let's get into this.
Yeah, let's get into it. We are like last week. You have a little bit of a time crunch, so let's make sure we get through everything.
I feel like we work better when we go to time crunch.
Yeah, we seem to get a little more focused here. Get to seem a little more whipped into shape here. Let's just see if we can keep this going. A little bit of news this week. Obviously, I curate most of my news from Star Wars and News and Net. Really great crew there. They really do a good job curating things. I also throw some things out there, rumor wire, investment bulletin, and things of that nature. But mostly, Star Wars News Net is the greatest source for in terms of, is it real? Is it rumor? Is it fake? Like, they did a good job curating it. So, 5 things from them and 1 piece from Investment Bulletin I just want to briefly touch on. First up, Rey movie, not Episode X. Not Episode X. There was a rumor floating around for a while that the title of the movie was going to be A New Beginning, and that was a title rumored a long time ago.
Title?
Title.
You like titles?
Titles. But then another rumor was put forth that it will be Star Wars Episode 10, A New Beginning. Star Wars News Net says that's not the case from what they hear. It's deep in development. A New Beginning might be the working title. It could be potentially. It's also potentially being called the New Jedi Order, which of course cribs from Legends a bit, which I wouldn't be surprised, because that's like kind of like I believe that's the name of the era at this point, at this point. So I don't know if they name it after that. That kind of seems weird, but either way, I think it's almost definitive that it won't be Episode 10, because they've been very clear how Episode 9 was supposed to end the Skywalker saga. The Skywalker saga is the Episode 1 through 9. If you're going to have any kind of episode, it's going to have a subtitle first. It has to be Star Wars New Jedi Order Episode 1. Kind of thing at this point. That's what would have to happen. So this being Episode 10, even though it has Rey Skywalker in it, I don't see it happening. I think it's a bunch of malarkey. What do you think about it?
You want to know what I think?
I do.
If people getting bent up in knots about this, you need to reevaluate your priorities, because I could not give 2 shits. It could be called Rey's Big Adventure. It could be called A Weekend at Rey's, for all I care.
Weekend at Rey's. It's called Rey. And cast Jamie Lee Foxx.
Call it Skywalker. Call it the new Skywalker. Just to really piss people off. That's what it should be called, the new Skywalkers.
You just like hitting those trolls and
trolling the trolls. Yeah, it's my favorite thing to do.
I know. I'm kind of like you. I have never really cared what the movie was called. I mean, let's be completely honest. We have movies called The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clone. These are not great titles. They're great pulpy 30 serial titles, which George was like basing it on. They made sense. But at the day, I don't give a what it's called. Give me the movie and let me make it a good movie. You can call it Episode 10 a piece of shit. I don't care as long as it's a good movie.
It wasn't even called Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope until way after the movie came out.
Absolutely. But you're right. So people like definitely get up in arms over these titles sometimes. And I'm just like, why are you bothering? If it's a bad title, I look at it and go, not a good title. Oh, well, is the movie good? That's what matters. So I'm not too concerned about that. But I do think it's just apt to note that I don't think it's going to be Episode 10. I don't think that's going to be anywhere. I think we're getting anywhere near that as far as I'm concerned. So next. All right, next up, we got a quick one here. Respawn had a game that was in work, a first-person shooter game. It has been canceled. Video games are in disarray. It feels like a lot of companies are having issues, and they're doing a lot of layoffs, and a lot of things are falling under the wayside. This was announced at one point, I believe, in 2022, and then a lot of cuts. EA went down. It's going down at least 5% of its workforce. It already laid off about 6%.
2 of my college friends got laid off in this round of cuts.
Oof, that's awful. But because of these cuts, I think this is why they decided to cancel their long-rumored Star Wars first-person shooter game, which was still in the early development stage, and to focus on existing games at this point, the IP that they have.
The final Jedi game is safe.
Yes.
What I've been told, the final Jedi game is safe. They're working on porting it over to I think the Unreal Engine at the minute, Unreal Engine 5. I think that's started. So
that makes sense.
I mean, that's stop that.
Oh, and that's part of the thing what they said too. They were going to focus on like existing games and IP they have. That not the Star Wars is an IP, but for them specifically, it's the Jedi games. So having a new Star Wars game was not definitely in their priorities. I did hear another rumor. I don't know. I forget where I saw this. It does kind of make sense, unfortunately, in my eyes. Like as far as business goes, I heard one of the reasons they decided to cancel it is because there are no Jedi or lightsabers involved at all, and that Star Wars kind of selling point to a degree. I've heard that's part of the reason they said, "Yeah, we could probably get rid of this and not be too miffed about it." I kind of feel like that's a stupid way to go about it, like because there's so much more to Star Wars.
Yeah,
and lightsabers.
I don't buy that. They do
Business wise, I could see that though. I could see like a head person going, "Star Wars has lightsabers. If it doesn't have lightsabers, it's not Star Wars. Get rid of it." I could see that happening. You know what I mean?
That wouldn't be a reason to drop a AAA title. If it was like a small little indie studio, maybe because they weren't going to make the bank. But in the gaming industry at the minute, like AAA title, because people expect games to be 70% off within like 6 months.
Right.
So you need to like really hit home on something. And if it's like a AAA, like a major studio that puts out nothing but AAA titles like EA and Respawn, I doubt that would have been an issue.
Think but this way, maybe that's not the issue, the overall issue, but if they're considering it and they're going, should we, maybe that was one of the things that was kind of like, well, that chalked it up in the con side, so to speak, maybe.
But it does now add fuel to Activision, potentially picking it up, because if you're going to have a company to pick up a first-person shooter, go with the company that makes Call of Duty.
Absolutely. So that could absolutely be what's going on here. We don't know, but sad though. I know some people are very much looking forward to this game, but it is what it is at this point. Hopefully we'll be able to deal with just having the Jedi games for now. I'm sure they'll come back in some way, shape, or form. We're just in a kind of restructuring of things.
Well, Lucasfilm games aren't exclusive to EA anymore, so really Kojima could do a Star Wars game with you. Oh my God.
Man, every time that man
he's got too much on at the minute anyway. I don't want to put that. He's nearly 60. I don't want to put him into a fucking grave at 60.
Every time you say that man's name, your eyes light up like it's like no.
I love him.
I know.
He's like God to me.
I know. All right, next up, the next bit of news we got animation. Lucasfilm Animation is searching for more animators. What's great news as far as I'm concerned. A couple different reasons why. I gave this link to my son because he's a burgeoning animator himself at 17 in high school. I figured, what the hell, get your name out there. And he said, sure.
Get an internship. Go for it.
Go for it, right? Hey, and you know what? Get me my in. I gave you life. You give me my in at Lucasfilm. That's all. I'll use you for my news sources. I'll use
parasite.
I am a little bit of a parasite. Hondo Anaka is my patron saint. So I'm not always the best man, but I'll do what I can. I do what I do. I do what I can do. No, but otherwise, also, I got to say, what the important thing for me to see about this is with all the animation studios and like we just saw the video games studios, a lot of our cutting people, a lot of our recalling courses, they're going down. They're not building out.
Rooster Teeth is a big one. Just shut down after like 20 years.
Absolutely. Rooster Teeth is one of the biggest ones for a long time. They've been cut down. Everybody seems to be cutting back, and Lucasfilm Animators is hiring and building out, which I find interesting, especially the next part of the news bit for me. I find it interesting that Bad Batch is ending and Lucasfilm is expanding. And of course, with Lucasfilm, unless you're talking about an Indiana Jones animated series, which is overdue, I would like to see that, or maybe a Willow animated series. It means more Star Wars animation, even though we haven't had anything officially announced yet, of course. I mean, we always thought something was coming post Bad Batch. We know about the Tales of the Jedi anthology series. With animation amping up, I have to assume that they're going to be potentially amping up Star Wars animation, which is a good thing for me. I mean, is it possible? I want to throw it out there. So I'm going to try to speculate responsibly. How awesome would it be as we get the Tales of the Jedi anthology series that are shorter one-off episodes? If not only do we get one animation in development from Bad Batch, post Bad Batch, maybe get two. Can we get two series potentially going?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Visions as well.
But that's not even Lucasfilm Animation though. So like that, like I almost put that as a separate side. I mean,
but they could start to pull it more in-house as well. So they could start like reaching out to, because they've used a lot of studios already from around the world. It's going to get to the point where like probably gonna have to start doing some of our own.
I have to see what we're gonna do with it, but I think wouldn't that kind of kill the concept of it? The concept is basically other studios doing Star Wars stuff. That's basically been the whole MO. So I mean, how could you pull it in house unless
turn it from Star Wars Visions into Star Wars Legends and just do Legend stories, animate it?
Pretty cool. We could still do collaborations, I guess, in a way, and make it. What I would like to see, honestly, though, even beyond, I mentioned 2 animation series. What I think would be great, and I've been kind of pushing this for a long time as well. And again, no inside information here, but if we get a post Bad Batch series, can we have a series of like animated films, little one-offs that they could do? I feel like that's a no-brainer for something like Disney Plus. Because like a lot of Disney Plus stuff has been series. You have to punch a lot of money into a series. Bad Batch 12-episode series. How awesome would it be just do here's a one-off film? I get budget-wise, it's got to be decent. If it does well, you can continue on. If it doesn't do well, it's a sunk cost, but it's a less budgeted than an actual full series. Do some one-off animated movies. I would love to see kind of like things like that. Maybe that's what they're doing. Hiring
we all know it's just going to be more Lego movies, which I'm okay with.
I love that Lego series as well, but give me a good Luke and Lando series or Luke and Larsa Tekka animated movie or something like that while we're doing. If they want to go on and do a Ventress series or something like that afterwards. But I got to say, the more I watch Bad Batch, the more we get through the season, I am more and more excited about where we're going, like how this is going to end, and then where next. Like, what is the next thing we can like look into? I'm just mostly happy though that we are getting more. That's the big news.
I mean, the animated stuff is way more consistent than live action. Let's face it. We know we're going to get at least 2, maybe 3 live action things a year. Like that's a surefire definite. That always happens. We're never without animated Star Wars.
Right. All right, let's move on there, as we don't have too much sidetracked here. Some movie news. Speaking of all the movies going on, or I should say rumors, Star Wars Newsnet ran a story via insider Daniel Rickman's Patreon page regarding some upcoming productions. Some of them seem like no-brainers, but we wanted to just kind of mention them. The first thing out there is about the Mandalorian and Grogu. Last week that we talked about the California Film Commission giving the tax credit for the 92-day window of filming in California to get $21 million back from the state. There was this kind of not rumor out there, but there was this kind of like idea that meant that Mando and Grogu were only going to film in LA and California, which is a little limiting because a lot of people would say that's they'd overuse the volume and make it like an extended version of the TV show, which honestly makes sense budgetary wise. And if it happens, it is what it is. But I know that I don't think I speak for just myself here. Most Star Wars fans love to see more on location shots. Andor really did I think Andor really, that's one of the places where Andor shine versus something like an Obi-Wan, which is definitely more volume oriented. I think the volume has a great space, but I think the on location shot shouldn't be completely replaced by the volume. So they're saying it's not going to happen though. That's what Dan Rickman's saying, is that there is set up time for a unit in the UK to do some filming as well. And that would
I actually have a thing on that. The government announced today, our dear Chancellor Jeremy Hunt announced that movie studios will be getting not a tax break, a tax cut.
Okay.
And they're going to be opening up more spaces. So
okay. I'm talking for on location shots, so I want to say a little bit about them. Use the volume. I'm not an anti-volume by any way. I think the volume has been one of the best things they've been able to develop with it. But you don't want to overuse it, over rely on it. Let's get some outside shots as well. So hopefully this report is right. We're going to get some outside of LA as well for shots.
If Pinewood are getting a tax cut, they're going to be going on location more.
No. All right, another bit of news from that same report. The Daisy Ridley-led Star Wars movie, New Jedi Order, working title, as they say. They're currently casting the other 3 main leads, which reportedly include Rey's 2 apprentices and the main villain. There are no details on the character yet, although Rickman's Patreon page definitely was taking in mind the Angela Bassett meeting recent that we talked about, as maybe she was involved in that. Maybe she would be the villain, but that doesn't necessarily. They don't have any knowledge on what it is necessarily. It's more speculation. I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to get Angela Bassett. Getting her into the Jedi Order movie would be a good place for her as far as selling that movie. But I was interested about
race line. That's it. That's all I want.
All right, here's the thing about that. I got to say, I from what I gathered on Ray Sloan, I don't think Dave Filoni knows who she is. To be completely honest, I don't think Dave Filoni really.
Come on, it's Filoni. He knows everything.
Dave Filoni doesn't actually care about the books very much. It feels like. I feel like he cares about the TV shows, he cares about the movies, and he cares about George.
That's what he has Sam Witwer for, to correct him.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. But he's like not gonna. if you're going to push Angela Bassett, I don't think he's going to be pulling. I think if somebody comes to him and goes, "Yeah, we could use I need a Grand Admiral and it's a female." Well, we have race, kind of like what they did with Saw Gerrera, what he did with Saw Gerrera. Oh, we need that. We could use that. I think I would love to see her play Ray Sloan. I think she's a perfect for Ray Sloan. I don't see it happening. I got a feeling we're going to get more separate from books than in coalesce with books, to be completely honest. But either way, I'm mostly intrigued about the Ray having 2 apprentices. Because we haven't seen that before. Obviously, with Star Wars, it's always been you can only have one. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon could only train Obi-Wan until he moved on for Anakin because he kicked Obi-Wan to the curb and said, Obi-Wan's good for the trials now. But it might be an interesting way to diversify from the previous Jedi Order. Rey wants 2 apprentices. You have any thoughts on that? Or do you like that idea? Does it intrigue you? Does it not?
To be honest, doesn't.
Okay.
It's one of these things where I'm just like, I want to know the story plot as I see it, kind of thing. Like, you know what I'm saying. I say it all the time. Like, I'm just wait. I want to see the story unfold in front of me. A lot of like the scoop stuff. I'm like, I don't want to like even latch onto it a little because then my mind, you know how my mind is. It starts woo once it starts going. Then
I know. I do the same thing. Luckily, I know that myself at least.
Attachment.
I'm able to say, yeah, it's okay as long as I don't get too attached to it. My first thought is 2 apprentices interesting, so we could have it set up that there's your good guy and your bad guy right there, or your bad guy apprentice. One's going to have to fight each other. The other with the Rey being in charge of the whole rest of the, or Rey being in like the Obi-Wan role almost, so to speak. Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see. Interesting ideas, though. There. Finally, the last bit of the Daniel Rickman thing. He talked about the title as well, which we already mentioned. And I'm sorry, not Andor. In terms of Acolyte, the Acolyte season 2, which you haven't even seen a trailer for season 1 outside of Celebration. Season 2 has been planned. That's been known for a long time now. It's been planned for a while, about a year now. We've known that's been planned. The new bit is that a writer's room has been set already. Now that makes sense considering the overall arc for the show written ahead of season 1 had the season 2 in mind. I mean, I gotta say, this is going to be probably like Mandalorian. I think they're going to announce a season 2 before season 1 even airs. I don't know what's the right way to go. I think it is, and the reason why I say that is because we need more storylines outside of the Mandoverse and more storylines outside of the like. This is its own spot. This is carving out its own spot. I think that we need a little bit more of that instead of putting everything in the Mandoverse or anything else. Let's get a pre-Phantom Menace story, which we haven't gotten. Let's build that out. So I kind of like the idea that we're going there. Of course, if season 1 fails, we're kind of setting ourselves up for a little bit of a shit show potentially. But I like the fact they're being prepared. That means they have something in mind that's good, and they're very confident in it. Does that strike you in any way, shape, or form?
Natty. No, the idea of a season 2 means that there could be a cliffhanger at the end of season 1, and I do not want to know. I want to know nothing.
That's why
we're finally getting a dark side centered show. I don't want to know shit.
That's why he's the best broadcaster in the business. Matty doesn't want to know.
I don't want to know. I want to know.
Fair enough. Okay. A little bit more news. One quick piece of news, and I'm excited about. Andor and Obi-Wan are getting physical releases on Blu-ray following up the Mandalorian season 1 and season 2. I have to assume that means season 3 and Ahsoka at least will get releases. I'm still hoping that the Book of Boba Fett would also get a physical release at some point down the line.
Bad Batch?
We haven't had any animated stuff at this point. Yeah, and that's a good point. That's a great point. None of the animated stuff. There's no Star Wars. We don't have season 7, Clone Wars season 7 on Blu-ray there. But then again, we didn't have anything on Blu-ray until December, and that was the Mandalorian season 1 and 2. So at least it's starting to come out, and the fact that we have more now is a good sign.
Disney Plus must not be doing so hot, huh?
Maybe that might be what it is. Well, you know what there's different reasons why. I mean, this could have been in the.
There's one reason, and you know there's one reason.
No, that could be more than one. this could be something that could have been planned a long time ago. Let's be honest. Like, this is something they said they could put on Disney Plus for a year, 2, 3, and then you put it out. It's just either way, even if it was doing wonderfully, if it was doing knocked it out of the park, it's still a way to get a new audience involved and to double dip from those Star Wars fans who are going to be like us and watch the movie, watch it on Disney Plus and buy it on physical media anyway.
I know Adam Hlavik is going to buy every damn version. I saw his Dune 2 haul that he's done. We bought like 2 like, look at all those vinyl I have behind me, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's an expensive collection. The man went and bought 2 variants of the same record just because he wanted 2 different color variants. Even I'm not that big of a vinyl collector, and I have a lot behind me, as you can see.
You don't have to go that far to go to Adam Hlavik. You know that PJ Campbell's going to buy both these with no problem. So I would be surprised there as well. So.
Just give me a Bad Batch one with like a cool Band of Brothers or A-Team style artwork on it.
You know what, though? But here's the good thing about that. There's a good thing about having delayed. Bad Batch Season 3 is ending, of course. So we're ending the series. Now we just get one complete set. They could just release all Seasons 1, 2, and 3.
Clone Wars and Bad Batch in one set?
Well, they could do that, too. But I already have.
Holy shit.
That'd be a big fucking deal at that point. But all right,
massive box set.
That would be a massive box set. That's 7 seasons of Clone Wars. 7 seasons of Clone Wars, and then
7 seasons of Clone Wars, the movie, and 3 seasons of Bad Batch.
Yep, absolutely. Ooh. I'll be happy with right now. Let's start with the Bad Batch series. Let's put it that way. I do all the Clone Wars on media before, but I would like to get them upgraded as well at some point. But
have you not heard? This is the last thing I'll put. Then we move on. Have you heard about the supercut that someone's made?
The Clone Wars season 7?
The entire Clone Wars and Bad Batch.
Oh, the entire. Oh, interesting. That's interesting.
Someone's done a supercut of every single episode of the Clone Wars and every single episode of the Bad Batch in chronological order.
Interesting. That's intense. All right, let's move on. Last bit of news before we have about a half an hour to break down Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 5. From Bespin Bulletin, the Acolyte trailer is finally being prepared.
La 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 la.
There's nothing in there about it. Don't worry. The Acolyte trailer is being prepared finally. Okay. It said that obviously he was the first. Sure, he reported about. That'd be in the summertime. Collider shared the hard date of June 5th. No one in Lucasfilm or Disney has confirmed the Collider report, but does make sense at this point. And if that's the case, if June 5th is the date, we're less than 3 months away from it being released. So a trailer coming out seems like a well-duh moment, right? As Bespin Bulletin says. Where is it, though? Where is it? Give it to me now. I think it's going to be happening soon. I have a feeling that we're going to get this within any day, any next week or two. I don't know. We're going to get it soon. And I'm excited about it. The only other piece of news from that news is that the episode length, I don't really care about the episode length, generally speaking, as long as it's good storytelling. They are ranging from the usual Star Wars live action 30 to 45 minutes, which makes sense. I like a lot of people, I wish they would be longer. Obviously, be 45 to an hour, but I have grown accustomed to it, and it is what it is. As long as they have enough time to tell the story, and they tell the story right, that's the most important part to me. So there we go. I won't ask you any more about Acolytes. I know you were trying to stay completely. I'm not going to speculate at all, and that's fine. I don't have much to speculate on. But
you can just tell me to mute myself.
When I do the trailer reaction, I'll do it by myself. Don't worry about it. I'll start off my own thing by myself, and then I'll let you into the space.
I've seen it. I've seen all I want to see.
I'm quite sure it's going to be a different trailer, but that's okay. That's okay.
Fine with me.
All right, let's move on then now to our notes. Hold on one second. Okay, we are starting the episode 5 reaction to it. Breakdown of the episode called The Return. And if this is your first time here watching our breakdowns or our reviews of the shows, this is how I do it. We do it in segments as the best way to do it. We go through a couple of different segments. We have Honda Watch, Mission Briefing, The Bachelor, I Spec, Put That in Your Holocron, and Snoke. It's Seen It All in Action, Laugh It Up Fuzzball, Parsecs Out of 11, and Forza Vision. That's the name of the segments. What do they mean? We're about to find out. Let's start off with our usual Honda Watch 2024.
Who wants to see Honda's book? Talk to me!
Basically, is Hondo Ohnaka in this episode? Has he made his triumphant return?
This effort is no longer profitable!
Next segment.
Next segment, we can't talk about it too much, can we? No, he does not. He does not. Although, to be fair, I'll give this a fair thing at this point. This episode didn't have a lot of spot for him, space for him. This is very much this is a core member episode. The only people in this episode, the only characters in the episode were the Bad Batch. And I don't know if you consider AZ as part of the Bad Batch, but AZ is kind of at least Bad Batch adjacent. And that's it. So I understand
the words coming out of your mouth.
Next
segment. Hope is wearing thin. We are running low.
All right, next segment. You're right. Mission and briefing.
What do you need, Rex? Any chance I could use you for a mission?
I'm still heartbroken.
This is our mission briefing. We talk about we basically break down the episode. Just do a quick summary of it as we go through. Great episode. We start right out with on Pabu, where Omega shows. It's kind of funny to me. Omega kind of takes a step forward, a step back every once in a while. They always want to show that she's taking a step forward as part of the batch. She's capable, but then they want to coach a step back and go, yeah, but she is still a kid. And we open up with her hugging her little Lulu doll there. In a warm environment. It seems it's definitely a juxtaposition from the first episode where she was in that cell. She is finally home. And Hunter and Wrecker are there, and Crosshair is absent. We're not exactly sure why right away, but not for long. As Omega asked the same question we were asking, where's Crosshair? And they say he wasn't in the ship already. But he's not. He's not run off. He is out there practicing, doing a little target practice with help from AZ. Not doing very well up to his standards. He had a target accuracy of 53%, well below his average as AZ.
My Call of Duty accuracy with a sniper rifle is better than that. Get your shit together, Crosshair.
He does go back to the hand a few times. Some issue going on still with his hand. We're not sure. Omega keeps pitching that AZ could look at his hand, but Crosshair doesn't really want anything to do with it, it seems.
Mental.
It's a mental thing, I believe that's what it is. But I love the fact that she starts learning from him even though he's damaged. She asks about sniping, and he's like, no, it's about reading environment, and it's about knowing when there's eyes on you, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, we get a sign of Hunter and Wrecker up there with eyes.
Yeah, he looks up the cliff, and first I was like, oh shit, the Empire here now?
Right, that kind of thought so away. I'm like, oh shit, but nope, just them. Hunter and Wrecker, obviously wary about Crosshair still, although like I kind of pitched forth a few weeks back, Wrecker is pretty much like, oh, he's back. It's good for me. Omega trusts him. I trust him. It's all good. Hunter, of course, is the more reticent, obviously, which makes sense. He's the leader. He's got to kind of look out for his crew. Mm. Crosshair betrayed them. He's got to be a little wary about that. But then before anything gets too roughed up, we get the return of Echo. Echo returns to the fold, at least temporarily. It's a great moment. We get Echo and Omega getting a nice reunion. Echo and Crosshair reuniting, of course, as well to a degree.
Echo didn't seem to care. I think they must have sent a message like ahead of time. Oh yeah, by the way, Crosshair's back.
Yeah, I think that's what happened too. He didn't seem surprised, that's for sure. We get this good sit down between the crew at this point. Echo and basically talking about Mount Tantus and all the intel that they learned. I did notice, by the way, did you notice that they had an open chair?
Don't.
They had a chair. Going. They had a chair left open. I think that was specifically purposely done.
Dick.
No, Echo did bring it out. Like they had that moment where, because they're missing his skills as well. Not only are they missing the body, but we have something that Tech would have taken care of, and he's not around. I do find it interesting going over this episode how Omega tended to step up into Tech's position a little bit in this one. She's trying to fill in for the skills that Tech obviously taught her. So it's a nice little, it's some next man up, as it were. They got to step up and help out where help is needed.
Just that one line fucking crushed me.
Just him saying Tech?
Without Tech.
Yeah.
It was just the pause between the without and Tech, and I was just like, oh, you bastards.
So Crosshair gives his intel, and then they have the data pad from Nala Se, but they have to attach it to some kind of Imperial computer database in order to get into it without breaking through the Imperial encryption. And Crosshair,
I think they were going to use the Find My Phone on the iPad to find the location.
You would think so, right? You would think they'd have that, right? Improving everything and track the ships, but then I can't track the data pads. But interestingly enough, that's where Crosshair brings up the outpost, and we are going to return to the outpost there. We are returning to Balaton. I think it's Balaton 4, I think it is, I believe. Barton 4. Barton 4.
Barton 4.
Barton 4.
Oh, yeah, because Creed Barton, I always remembered it by Hawkeye because there's the eagle, the hawk, Barton 4. That's how I remembered it.
I wonder if that's why it's named that. Interesting. That could be. You know, Star Wars has some weird names in there. They do some things like that. I thought using Barton 4 was a real stroke of brilliance, and the more I think about it, the more I love that choice. I love the choice so much because it's where Crosshair really made his first step back towards the light and back towards his brothers. So it makes sense to go back there to take that next real big leap in that direction. Alongside the aforementioned Hawk, it's kind of like he almost has his own little conveyor a little bit. He has his own little mortis.
I do.
Yeah.
You got Batcher as well. He's like become. You would have thought that Wrecker would be the one that's like always around Batcher and like playing with Batcher. It's like no, like Batcher stays with Crosshair most of the time.
So far, so good. Yeah, and I gotta tell you, that's actually my favorite parts. Like it was these small subtle moments when Crosshair was like petting Batcher or like scratching his own, and you're like, he's really fitting, and I like that. But anyway, using the outpost in general, what a brilliant choice! What a brilliant way to do that. I think it's it just brings everything back home because the outpost might be one of my favorite episodes of the Bad Batch of the entire run. I think it matches up with some of my favorite Clone Wars stuff, maybe some of my favorite Star Wars animated episodes, period. So it's just that good of an episode. And this one actually ended up being worthy of that. I think worthy of using that location, worthy of using the background there. So they decide to go there. Echo Quaritch Hunter initially wants Wrecker and Omega to stay behind, and Omega's like, F that. I got to see this through. This is I got to be funny. A little bit repetitive, but it's like at this point, eventually, when's Hunter going to learn? Because so basically, Hunter's like, Omega, you're going to stay here.
I think that's
Omega,
part of the thing.
I have to do it. Okay.
I think because that was one thing that I brought up when we were talking about season 1. That I was like, oh, it's going to be Omega. Hunter's going to be like, no, you got to stay here. And Omega's like, we got to save everyone. Now, like I see why, because it's like Hunter's slowly realizing, oh, I can't stop this kid.
Yeah, that's what it is. He knows he can. And he knows honestly that she deserves to be there to help out at this point because she's done as much as any of them have. She's done more than they have to a degree. All right, so they go to Barton 4, where the outpost is, and we get a little bit of lessons on things. They're kind of questioning things. Some great snarky moments from Crosshair. I love the idea where it's like, you didn't tell me this. You didn't say it was abandoned. He's like, yeah, well, I wasn't getting daily intel from my cell. That's fair. That's fair. But they get there and they have to explore. The base is abandoned now. It's no longer just understaffed. And this is where the Dune part comes in, obviously, that there are creatures outside of the perimeter that weren't there last time, as far as I remember. There were no Dune snowworms, the cousins of the sandworms there outside that are the perimeter beacons are keeping away. Reminders of the Rebels episode back in the
Krykna spiders, yeah.
The Krykna spiders, exactly. So the team gets to dig in to the base, which is kind of buried in the snow. They find their way in and they try to just plug in, but there's not enough power. So they have to plan to go to an outside source to reboot the power source.
If only they had a droid that was a power battery.
That is it's a good point. But they're on Echo ship. So Gonki's obviously staying back at Pabu.
I'll tell you what it was. It was from carrying him upside down all that time. All the power just went to his head.
That's what it was. That's probably what it was. So Hunter and Crosshair keep being snarky toward each other. Echo surprisingly was like, "Come on, we got a mission to do. Let's kill each other later," kind of thing, which is interesting to see. But the plan is in place that they're going to power up the beacon and power up the beacons. We know that there's some monsters out there, so Hunter and Crosshair are going to, not surprisingly at this point, they have to team up That's where this was going the whole time. They're going to team up and take control of the situation, try to prevent the monsters from coming in. But before we get there, we do have a great moment I want to showcase. As we know, we've been here in the outpost. We know we've been here before. They open the door, they get through. Crosshair kind of goes off on his own and finds what I would expect him to find. We do find the helmet of one Mayday.
Yeah.
And that was a great, powerful moment. And it made it even more powerful that Hunter watched him. He
didn't just pick up Mayday's helmet either. It was all of the clones that were there.
Right. We saw Mayday's helmet, but definitely was the idea that they had. And speaking of helmets, we actually forgot to mention Wrecker brings him his old armor, and the touching moment that was that's Wrecker's way. That's Wrecker's way of saying I love you, boy. And Crosshair kind of Wrecker have that moment, kind of like, all right, we're good, at this point. But when he finds Mayday's helmet, it's definitely that moment. By the way, Connor's music this entire episode was just unsurprisingly banger after banger. Hints of like different like Ray's theme, how it kind of came through with you a little bit for me. Like,
Ray's theme?
It wasn't Ray's theme, but it kind of sounded like it was in the same realm as Ray's theme in terms of like.
I noticed a lot of different takes on a lot of different versions of Crosshair's theme.
No, Crosshair's theme. The theme is not the right word. It's the tone of Ray's theme though.
Okay.
Kind of like that kind of like feel like when it's more the innocent, hopeful things at that point. Just reminded me of the same tone. That's why I brought it up. So Hunter doesn't say anything yet, and they go out to take care of the end up having to take care of the snow worms. And of course, some damage is done. The snow worm comes in. Hunter gets they get into a little bit of fight, and then Hunter gets knocked into a hole, as usual. Typical at this point, right?
I did find it funny as well how when Crosshair walked out, his Boyd pointed. He used the bird pointed with his wing, like go that way.
Pretty much just followed exactly.
Crosshair like Pocahontas, bro. You can just speak to animals.
We did have the moment, obviously, before Hunter fell in. They did start to talk about things. Hunter basically came point blank and asked him what happened. I even got a little physical with Crosshair, gave him a little shove, trying to figure out what's going on here.
And he gave Hunter some tough love, some home truths that Hunter probably didn't want to admit to himself.
Crosshair did, yeah. He gave as good as he could. He gave as good as he got, mentioning that it's Hunter's fault. You did nothing. I gave you the intel and you failed. And Hunter didn't want to hear that, but he knows that's his greatest fear, his greatest regret. He knows that he took it. Of course, before it was resolved, though, they get knocked into the ground and comes a different scenario. So we got another big monster in Star Wars. Like I mentioned before, as the record says, another big monster. They do tend to blend together. All this kind of reminded me a little bit of the dragon from How to Train Your Dragon, kind of the design, like that a little bit. But it's that good moment, getting the boys back into action, because quite frankly, these are men of action. So like they're not built to have these conversations like long term. They definitely they're going to make more. They're going to make more ground fighting together and trusting each other and like backing each other than a half-hour conversation would do. Personally, I would love to have this whole episode be pew-pewless and be actionless and just be Hunter and Crosshair bashing it out like verbally. And if they had to get physical, too. But like, that's just not the Batch's style. That's not their style. They're like,
you had Echo at the end saying, "Oh, they always figure it out, and there's no blood this time. That's progress."
That's exactly what it is. They obviously do get through. Wrecker gets into the breaker, gets the thing recharged. They are able to get the perimeter, the snow beast out of the perimeter, and that's when Crosshair and Hunter kind of finish up their remarks to each other. They kind of like they do the nod, nod. Yes, yeah.
They're not there yet, but
they're well along the way. Hunter, like, it's a great moment where Crosshair does have that moment of saying, I thought the Empire was something else. It wasn't. I've made mistakes. He admits he's made mistakes, and I think that's kind of all Hunter really needed, was for Crosshair to be like, yeah, I fucked up. Because now Hunter's like, yeah, we've all fucked up. I mean, we fucked up too. And like, you know what? The only thing we can do is move forward together.
They fucked up with Sid, so it's pot calling the kettle black, really.
Absolutely. And Hunter probably feels he fucked up letting Tantus get Omega, letting Hemlock get Omega. He fucked up there too. That's what he feels like. Whether, yeah, I think he shouldn't blame himself too hard on that, but that's the way it is. He does. But everybody's fucked up. But now they're back together, and it feels like they're making a step forward. And it feels like they did what they had to do in this episode. This is where some people might call it filler, but this is a necessary episode to have. Because they bring Crosshair back, they have to reintegrate him into the team. If he just came back in that next episode, they were working together and it's all good, it wouldn't seem right. It wouldn't seem earned. Now they have this episode where it does fulfill a little bit more. They get a little information. They don't have the location of Tantus, but they do have some intel that Echo and Rex could use. Of course, Omega's like, I'm sorry, I didn't get more. And Echo's like, hey, you got something and you made it out of there alive. That's what you did your job very well at this point. And they leave. And so that's where we end up leaving off. So obviously, I don't know where the next episode is going to lie. I know we have a 2-part episode. We'll talk about that during First Division. That's our next run next week. Or at least 2 episodes are coming out at the same time. I assume it's 2 parts because of that. But yeah, some great moments throughout. I want to say, I'll sum up before we move on to our next subjects, our next segments here. There obviously Crosshair and Hunter had some great moments this week. They were mostly about that. Crosshair and Omega continued their camaraderie, which is something I was a little, not worried about, because it was going to be interesting to see how their dynamic would be when placed in the larger group. But they still had their moments. I love when he said something to the effect of, Hunter's just worried about you. He's like, Crosshair says that you're very capable, but you're still a kid. Him saying you're very capable is probably the best compliment that Crosshair could give. He's saying
any compliment he's going to give.
Right, exactly. That's huge from him. But you have that brotherly camaraderie there. Wrecker was a little bit to the background of this episode. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more from him moving forward a little bit. I could like to see because he's kind of like, I'm happy that he moves on quickly because that is in character. I would like to see
Keep
him
safe.
Right. Yeah. But I would like to see him and Crosshair have some more moments or something like that. But they did pretty well with it overall. At the end of the day, great episode as far as that goes. It took a lot, moved it forward, get our pieces together, and again, like another banger. So, all right, let's go through our segments now. And at the end, we'll wrap it up and talk anything more we have to say. The next up,
I was hoping for the whole squad, but you'll do.
Bachelor. This is our favorite character of the week. Doesn't have to remember the Bad Batch, but this week it pretty much had to be because that's all that was in the episode. Unless you count again, AZI. Is AZI part of the batch? I don't know. What do you think? Is that part of the batch? I mean,
I think so.
Yeah.
At this point,
he doesn't really go on missions.
He's batch adjacent.
He's batch adjacent. AZ. Who's more of a Batcher? Right? Is it Batcher or is it AZ? Who knows? I mean, I think Batcher goes on the
Batcher.
So there you go.
Batcher
Either way,
on Pabu.
That's true. But I don't think Batcher would stay anywhere away from Crosshair and Omega at this point. I wonder who he would go to. That's what I want to know now. He started out as Omega's friend, but he's definitely shined to Crosshair since then for sure. What do you think? Who's your favorite character of the week?
I think it's Crosshair. I think this was a very Crosshair central. I think we're in a Crosshair central arc at the moment. We see he was the one that decided, well, okay, we're going back to this place that he probably really didn't want to go back to. This is where everything started for him in the cycle of getting in prison in Tantus, discovering that everything that he believed was a lie. He probably didn't want to go back there. And I mean, the first shot that we see when he steps off the ship is him looking up and seeing his boy circling around, which was the last shot that we saw on the Summit episode, was him laying on his back, looking up in the bird above him. It's the first shot we see when he gets off the ship when they get back to the outpost. Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I happen to agree. Although I will say this wasn't a clear cut for me. I went through, I kind of almost went Hunter because I think he did some great, he had some great moments in this episode where he's
kind of an ass, though.
A little bit, but like, you understand why to me. He is the father figure. He's got to protect his crew at this point. And Crosshair is someone who hurt his crew, really hurt his crew. Tech is dead, partially because Crosshair wasn't there.
Thanks
that's what he's
for the reminder.
I know, but I'm saying that's what's going through his head. Like he lost one. He's got to be a bit of a prick and make sure everything's on the up and up. But he makes his ground. He steps up when needs to be, and he doesn't let it bother him. He doesn't let him get in the way of doing what needs to be done. I also thought of Omega. Omega was a nice run this week. Again, she kind of did a lot more as far as getting them together. It was good to see her kind of vacillating between being a child but being a full member of the crew, stepping up where I'm going to do it again. Sorry, where Tech was absent, she got to step up. Got a lot of good stuff there. But at the end of the day, I did end up circling back to Crosshair because for everything that you just said, Crosshair is a Crosshair episode. He makes his ground. I love the fact that he doesn't really hold a grudge. He does not hold a grudge at all. As far as he goes, because he knows he fucked up. He knows where he doesn't blame them for watching him. He doesn't blame them for. He mentions they don't trust him, but he doesn't blame them for not trusting him. He understands what's going on, and he's going to do his best to prove himself worthy. He's not leaving. He's facing what he has to face as much as he can, and he's actually grown as a character with Omega. He's giving Omega a compliment that he's scratching Batcher's chin. He's actually got a. It's something you don't expect from Crosshair at this point. So I agree. I think I have to go with you and say Crosshair was the Basher of the week. Great moment for him. Hopefully it continues for him. I like what we're doing with Crosshair's redemption. It's kind of a slow burn, but it's an earned burn, as it were. So, all right, next up.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.
I spec your favorite line. I had a bunch of favorite line possibilities. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm gonna let you choose one because then if you choose one of mine, I'll just pick another one of them.
Mine is the Echo line of they always figure it out that there's no blood this time. That's progress. It just shows that he was very well aware of. I knew they were gonna make up as soon as they go back together. I knew they were gonna be friends again. Well, not friends, but teammates. And yeah, I just thought that was a nice little glimmer of hope for what could happen.
No, I totally agree with you. The funny thing, I had that as a possibility. I also have the possibility as a segment later on, but I have another moment I'll use. But I agree. I did love that line. That was because of the way D. Bradley Baker, the line he gave. It was so not like there was nothing behind it except for pure camaraderie. It was like, brothers getting back together. It was almost like it wasn't a big deal.
It's like a daily occurrence.
Right. Well, progress. Oh, interesting. Really good line at that point. I'll choose a different line then. I had a couple ones. I did love Crosshair's, when he finally just goes, I made mistakes. And I loved that line. And I almost want to pick that, but I think I'm going to go with an Omega line. Very much in tune with her and her camaraderie with the character, with Crosshair and everything else. I'm older than you are, little brother. It was a perfect response to Crosshair's kind of not denigrating or downplaying. You're a kid. Yeah, well, I'm not. I'm older than you are, little brother. And it makes sense. It's true.
Well, thanks for taking my comedy moment.
Well, you know what? You took mine, so there we go. You took mine, so it actually ends up working out. It's a great line from Omega. It works out very well. It just showcases where they are, and I love that line so much.
And it also addressed something that the fan has been wondering for a minute.
Yeah.
Is Omega older? Which one of them is older? And now we know.
Sure. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. Put that in your holocron and snoke it.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
All right, that's where we look at explore more lore, as I call it. We look into the lore left in the episode and what we want to see further explored somewhere in a further episode down the line, or a book or comic, something like that. And what did you have this week for this one?
Mine's the Snow Halud. Is there some random person standing on a cliff on Barton 4 just going, just summoning the worm? Is there people there that can ride the snow worms?
That's fair. I actually put that as mine as well initially. I decided to change last minute. Another animal one, because there wasn't a whole lot of lore in this episode, really. There wasn't a whole lot of
the Void.
Further. The Void is the other one I would like to go into, because is it like a Mortis bird? Are they related to Converse? Because they seem to be very much attached to the people, really attached to Crosshair at this point, more than a normal Void would be. I feel like. So I will say the reason why I explored it specifically and why I related to on there. It doesn't have to be in world. It could just be a storytelling device, and most likely it's just a storytelling device. At the end of the episode, you see the bird leave because Crosshair has moved on. That's the way I looked at it. Like the bird's leaving, bird's got to move on now, just like Crosshair. Crosshair had to come here to this world in order to get over to take that first step to move on to being back with his family. This was Crosshair's way of doing it, and the bird is kind of representative of that. In Galaxy, no, not so much. But I'd like to see maybe in Sierra Galaxies, maybe the Converse.
So to bring this back around to Metal Gear Solid, there is a boss called, I think he's called The End, and he's like this old man that's been alive for like nearly 200 years, and he's a sniper, and he has like a parakeet on his shoulder, and because he's like so blind, it's the parakeet that like helps him see and like helps him like snipe. I'm wondering if the bird is going to become like his like maybe like in the battle in Tantus, the bird, like we just see the bird appear, it just like lands on his shoulder, and suddenly his hand starts working again.
Well, that would be very interesting because that means the bird can do hyperspace travel. But
hey, if whales can, birds can too.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. That's true. Absolutely never know. So, all right, next up, seen a lot of action.
Hear a lot of carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
Favorite action bits of the episode. I'll take this one first. There was a lot of action beats to enjoy. For me, it was a slightly less action-oriented, actually, though, given it. I think my favorite one was a wrecker digging up the entrance to the breaker. You saw Batcher do it. He gets there, he's like little boy. Again, I don't know why I like it so much, but I thought it was great. Well, that the biggest guy, the strong guy of your crew, the guy who would usually actually be the one having to face the worm. You put the strong guy up against the big monster. He's stuck doing some snow castles there. He tried snow angels or snow batchers maybe, as he got to break into the rooms where they have to reset the breakers for Omega's tech stuff. Yeah, I love that moment there. How about you?
Mine is actually the breaker moment. It reminded me a lot of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. That's a great moment there. Yeah, absolutely.
Like while I was watching him do it, I was like, oh, so Brad Brown and Jennifer Corbett watched Jurassic Park before they wrote this one. Huh, interesting.
I would love to have seen that snow would get into the breaker entrance or get into the place where I thought for sure like that thing's gonna eat the doors. I don't know if the doors are gonna stop the snow elude there at that point, but all right, next up, we already kind of ruined yours. I'm sorry.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
It's okay because I have another one.
Oh, good. All right. So your favorite comedy moments. There were a couple of comedy moments. You also took mine. My initial one was there was no blood progress moment from Echo, but I did have another one as well. And I'll lead off with this one to saying my favorite comedy moment. Maybe I'll steal yours again. After the perimeter lines are set up and the monster runs away, the snow elude runs away. I love when that Batcher turns around and starts barking after him like, yeah, bitch, get out of here. I got you.
You better run.
You better run. Little snow dog and a big snow
He's
dog.
there like looking back across there like, hold me back, bro.
Wait, hold on. You still there? All right, you're still there. Love Batcher and love that moment. It reminded me of so many funny moments I've seen like that over the years, and it was perfectly done. Mwah. How about you?
Mine was it was on Pabu, and it was as Echo arrives, and you just hear Crosshair go, "No hug for me."
Crosshair was Mr. Snarky this week. Let's be honest. He had this. I mean, he's always been snarky, but I kind of feel like that's what you've missed ever since he turned tail and was with the Empire for a long time. Story made sense and everything else, but having him there with that snark just adds a different level of something we've been missing. He is. I mean, it's kind of like a replacement for, of course, the unintentional comedy. As without tech, we do have Crosshair.
Will you stop?
It's true.
We get it. Tech's dead. We get it. You don't have to keep hammering it home. Jesus Christ. I'm going to send you a therapy bill.
You got to get over it, my friend. I mean, he's not dead, though. You have already on the.
I don't have a bird to help me get over things, okay?
Don't worry. Everybody on the internet says that Tech's alive. So don't worry about it. He'll come back.
I don't give a shit what people on the internet say. You know this.
I still think he's not going to make it. I still think he's not going to make it back. But All right, let's move out then. We got 2 more categories to do before we wrap things up.
It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
What's less than 12 parsecs? 11. We always rank things at a scale of 1 to 11 here on PLD Projects. Always turn it up to 11. How many parsecs out of 11 are you giving this episode, my
I
friend?
gave this a 9.5. It was really good. Like the last episode was really heartwarming and touching. This one had that, but also it felt like this was the culmination of Crosshair's arc of like now he's back in the group. He's got those familiar senses. He's back with the wisecracks. Him and Hunter, obviously, this is how they show love, is by arguing and beating the shit out of each other. So I think we're now we're ready to, and I'm going to get into that on my Force Vision.
Bill, let's actually, let me ask you a question. You can defer it to the Force Vision because it's kind of Force Vision related. Do you think this is where this show has been, obviously I've mentioned it before, this has been a, quote unquote kids show. It's obviously got some darker themes, deeper themes, but it is aimed toward a younger audience. It's always has been, but we've grown with them over the couple of years. Is this a case where our Hunter and Crosshair and Wrecker, is everything fine now, or are we still going to have some tense moments because of Crosshair stuff? Or
I think it's going to be, this is how it's going to be for the rest of until the end of the season, when they all when they are forced to come together. I think there's going to be some tension
still.
Yeah.
I hope so too. I do hope that they don't kind of just, all right, we did our moment. Crosshair's moved on. All right, the Bad Batch is good to go. I do hope there's some lasting moments still. Obviously, we're past the big hump, and they're going to trust each other, which is the most important thing. But I still think a little snark here and there will do good, and I hope that they continue it that way.
There's going to be learning to work together as a team again.
It's already started. I think we'll continue that way, hopefully. All right, for me, it's just kind of funny. I watched the episode twice. I was able to watch it twice. First time I was going to give it like a 7.5. I enjoyed it, but I thought it was really a surface thing for me. My second time through is where I really dove deep into it. Like, I saw so many more things that I missed the first time through. I'm not sure. Sometimes I got to say, I listened to a podcast called With Gorley and Rust. It's a horror podcast, great horror podcast. And Matt Gorley on there said he always tries to rate his movies. Did I watch this movie?
Great name for a horror podcast.
It is great. They actually, it's funny they do this whole thing. It started off like doing like Friday the 13th. It was In Voorhees We Trust with Gorley and Rust, and they started like making it a big joke. And they changed his name. Everyone, he would change his name to fit the rhyme. It was kind of funny. But he does say, like, you watch a movie, is a good movie on a good day, good movie on a bad day, bad movie on a good day, bad movie, that all that kind of, when you watch it and what mood you're in and how you watch it can definitely influence how you feel or how you feel about an episode. And the first time I watched it at work, I was kind of busy last night. I watched it during my break, my lunch break. But I was definitely a very busy boy last night. So I didn't have a chance to really let it sink in, to let it ruminate. So I got a chance to watch it again this morning. And I loved it. I loved it more. I got a little deeper. So I went from a 7.5 all the way up to a 9 because I found so much more deeper meaning this time through. I don't know, the music hit me the right way. Crosshair snark hit me the right way. It really was nearly, I want to say a perfect episode, but it had every moment that I would want out of this kind of episode. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I can't lie. It's for me, it went up significantly from my first viewing. And it sometimes happens. I think a lot of times it happens. So, all right. Next up, our last segment before we wrap things up.
Premonitions.
Force Vision, we talked about. This is where we look forward to the future. It doesn't have to be next episode, but it could be later on in the season, could be in the finale, could be years from now in different movies or in comics or books. What do you get out of this episode, Force Vision wise, my friend?
Q Thin Lizzie's jailbreak. The next episode is called Infiltration. They need to find out how to get to Tantis. How do you track an Imperial? How do you think like an Imperial? You become an Imperial. Or you break one out of jail. They're going to break Rampart out of jail.
Rampart. Oh, interesting. I can't deny that. That's actually a great moment there. That you are right. It's infiltration and extraction. It does lead you to think there'd be some kind of prisoner breaking thing at this point. I like that idea. It's a two-parter. Okay, I'm going with that. Rampart is a strong, bold claim. I'm interested to see if it goes down that way.
He hasn't appeared at all this season yet, and it's kind of like the last time we saw him, he was hauled off getting arrested. So it's like, who would be the perfect person for them to break out of jail to get some intel? Who's going to be pretty jaded at the Empire for getting used as a scapegoat?
Is it Rampart? Is it Rampart? Okay, nice. I like that idea. I'm along the same lines of you, infiltration and extraction. I mean, I was wrong. Obviously, everybody's pitching the return to be the return of Asajj Ventress, the return to be a lot of different things, basically the return of the group, so to speak. So we're already wrong on a lot of different ways. But I look at that infiltration extraction, I can't help but think about it as well. I wonder if this is the time where we potentially get Asajj Ventress for the first time. And I think the infiltration is, I wonder, do they infiltrate somewhere deep? They find they think might be Tantus, but it isn't. They infiltrate a new place and they break out Quinlan Voss. And Quinlan Voss leads them to Asajj Ventress. Potentially.
You're out of line, but I'll allow it.
I don't know. That's a Force vision. That's a little drunken Force vision. I honestly don't think it will happen, but maybe it's a little bit by hopeful it happens. I really hope we get Quinlan Voss this season. I know we're getting Asajj. I think that Asajj without Quinlan would be a very missed opportunity. So you always use a Jedi. Always use a Jedi to help you out, and who better knows that than Rex? So infiltrate, get Quinlan Voss out of wherever he is, and then he can help get Asajj, and that can be a part of the battle at the end.
Or do they just go back to Tannis? And are they going to infiltrate Tannis? And are we just shooting past what is the obvious here? If they're going to infiltrate Tannis and extract the clones from Tannis?
I think it's too early. I think that's the finale. I think that's the finale. I think the attack on Tantis has to be the last battle. That's my thought. Which is why I would initially think. Initially, when you look at the titles, you're kind of like that makes the most sense. Right off the top of it, well, that's where they need to infiltrate. That's where they got to extract. They got to extract and the clones out of Tantis. That's what makes sense. But I do thinking as far as story structure wise, we can't get that done until the end. The cavalry has arrived. Into the breach, flash strike. The cavalry has arrived. That seems like it's all the attack on Tantis, so to speak, potentially. So I don't know. We're gonna find out though. Maybe we have to infiltrate Coruscant. Maybe that's what they have to do. Maybe there's something on Coruscant they have to do at this point. We know they're going to Coruscant at some point. That was in the trailer. So who knows? I don't know. We have a lot of thoughts. This might not be my best Force vision. I guess I'm trying to will Quinlan Voss into the show.
You need to wipe the Force glasses down a little bit.
Maybe. Stop drinking on the Jack Daniels. Anyway, I think that'll do it for this week's episode. At this point, do you have any last minute notes on the episode? Anything you want to talk about real quick about it?
Nope. All good. This one was short and sweet. So yeah.
All right. Great episode of Bad Batch again, like I said before, 4 to 5 absolute bangers. And when your worst show is the worst episode of Bad Batch season 3, which to me was episode 2, I'll put that out there as my least favorite episode of the season so far. And if that's your worst episode, then you're in good hands because I still had a lot of fun with this episode. So, all right, we'll be back next week. Another more news breaks, and of course, 2 episodes to break down. So hopefully, we have a little bit of a longer show next week. Maybe less news to break down. I can't wait for it. Matty, where can the folks find you?
You find me right there, and then next to that, hit the like button. Over there, leave a comment. Up there, after you're done with that, click in the bar. Go to patreon.com/PLD Projects. Join us there if you can. If you can't, no worries. And Paul, where can they find you?
At Pawns for the News on Twitter. Of course, you're on the audio feed. I did make this mention. I do have a Holy Snokes Pacific feed. In addition to the PLD Projects feed. The new episodes of Holy Snokes are still going up only on PLD Projects feed. I am slowly updating the Holy Snokes feed with all the older episodes. Eventually, the new episodes of Holy Snokes will go on that Holy Snokes feed. But so you want to get to it and subscribe to it now. You go back, listen to some old fun episodes we had so see how wrong we were in some of our predictions back then. It's a lot of fun. But for now, we're still going to be on this PLD Project channel. I will let you know as soon as we are ready to move over. I will let you guys know. Again, you can find me on PLD Projects everywhere. A lot of great shows here. PLD Projects with 2 Mediocre White Dudes on Film with PJ Campbell doing the Friday the 13th saga. We're going to get into the Womp Stomp films, the fan films that we really both enjoyed and really like as part of our headcanon. So we're going to break down those 2 films before we get into John Wick, which is going to be a lot of fun on 2 Mediocre White Dudes on Film.
Wait, you're doing John Wick?
We are doing John Wick.
I expect my invitation in my DM.
I got Crown Jewels. This week I'm talking about the News of the World Tour. A shorter episode is breaking down the tours of 1977, 1978. Then, of course, review every other week with Lego. That should be a lot of fun, as always. And I think that's all the shows I do, right? Yeah. You just find me everywhere. You know where to go. Anyway, next time I will see you soon. We will both see you soon. And as always,
may the Force be with you. Always.